I'll turn my speech now, Madam Speaker, to the point about complaints. I'm sure you're aware that over the past year, the backlog of complaints with the CTA, the Canadian Transportation Agency, has grown an average of 3,000 complaints per month, with a backlog of over 60,000 complaints now waiting to be adjudicated by the agency. And in fact, Madam Speaker, this bill sets no service standards for the Canadian Transportation Agency and will do nothing to eliminate the backlog of 60,000 complaints. And in fact, I have an example here from my riding, Madam Speaker, where as of July 2023, I had a constituent waiting 2 years for a response from the CTA for the complaint which they had registered, and in the same 8 months where they processed 4,085 complaints, the complaints grew by 12,000, so in fact doubled in that time. So it is no wonder, Madam Speaker, that Canadians are dissatisfied with this current process that is in place, and this legislation will do little to improve it without said standards. As well, Madam Speaker, it's not clear which entities which will be covered by this bill, as this bill will be left to future regulations. And I know that this is a theme that we've heard on this side, Madam Speaker, in discussing this bill today, that there are lots of regulations. And I think, in fact, we've seen from the other side of the House that they take advantage of these regulations. They take advantage of Canadians in using these regulations. And we might see something that is perhaps gazetted and then all of a sudden brought into implementation, with both industry and Canadians being forced to respond, being forced to pay the price for the use of regulation by this government. But fundamentally, Madam Speaker, this bill remains a toothless bill that contains no specific remedies to these problems which have been plaguing the system since the pandemic. And I'll add to that, Madam Speaker, during that difficult time coming out of the pandemic, what did the then Minister of Transport do? He blamed Canadians. He blamed Canadians for forgetting how to travel. Again, I've talked about this government shirking responsibility, and there we see again the Minister of Transport not saying, oh, my bad, I should have come up with a plan during the pandemic, but rather instead blaming Canadians for this. I'll